Let's jump right in, shall we? Today's deep dive is all about the Two Towers.
Tolkien's epic middle chapter of The Lord of the Rings.
Right. But we're not just sticking to the main storyline.
Oh no, we're going deeper.
We're looking at those intriguing excerpts,
The prologue, of
or
course.
even some of those appendices that Tolkien tucked away.
Like secret treasures just waiting to be discovered.
Exactly. So by the end of this, you'll have
A whole new perspective on the Two Towers.
you'll be ready to impress even the most die-hard Tolkien fan.
Absolutely.
So, where should we start?
Well, how about with the hobbits themselves?
Perfect. Because the prologue gives us these tantalizing glimpses into their history.
Doesn't it?
And here's something that really jumped out at me.
What's that?
Their ancient legends don't seem to go back very far.
Interesting, isn't it?
It's as if they've chosen to focus on the present
Hmm.
and the very recent past.
Almost like a deliberate forgetting of the distant past.
Yeah. What do you make of that?
Well, you could say that hobbits have a kind of selective memory.
A selective memory.
They're focused on the everyday, the practicalities of life.
Which is part of what makes them so relatable, right?
Of course. But it also raises some intriguing questions about their place in a world where these ancient forces,
Like Sauron.
yes, exactly, are constantly at play.
So you're saying that this lack of historical awareness might actually make them more vulnerable when they're suddenly thrust into this epic, world-altering quest?
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, think about it. If your cultural memory is mostly about,
Gardening.
yes, gardening and family gatherings.
Second breakfast.
Exactly. How do you even begin to grasp the concept of an all-powerful Dark Lord
Right?
who's threatening to destroy everything you and love?
Okay, so speaking of vulnerability, let's rewind a bit.
Rewind.
Back to Bilbo's encounter with Gollum in The Hobbit. Now, we all know the story.
Finds the ring in the dark.
Bilbo finds the ring. But rereading the excerpt, it struck me just how much sheer luck was involved.
Yes, and I think even at that point, we start to see the ring subtly influencing events.
Even then.
Even then.
Wow. And of course, Bilbo doesn't fully understand the ring's power at this point.
Not all.
He just sees it as this useful,
Little trinket.
a way to get out of tricky situations.
But we, the readers, we see Gollum's obsession with his precious.
Right.
And it's almost like a mirror, isn't it? We start to see those same patterns emerging in Bilbo.
So it's like a subtle foreshadowing.
Exactly.
The warning signs are there, but they're faint.
Very faint.
And then we stumble upon this really interesting detail about the Shire records.
Oh, yes, the Shire records.
According to the appendices, interest in Hobbit history didn't actually take off
That's right.
until after the events of The Lord of the Rings.
It's like they needed that experience
Experience of
of facing the wider world
Mhm.
and the true magnitude of Sauron's threat to finally make them look back and say, what is our place in all of this?
Yes, exact. Wow. So it makes you think about perspective.
Doesn't it?
It's only after brushing up against, well, the epic sweep of history that they begin to appreciate their own seemingly small stories.
Yes. And it speaks to the enduring power of Tolkien's work.
In what way?
He shows us how even the most humble lives can be touched by these grand events,
Right.
and how our understanding of the past shapes our understanding of the present.
Okay, so let's fast forward a bit.
Fast forward.
Back to the main narrative of the Two Towers. We pick up with Bilbo's sudden departure from the Shire,
Oh, yes.
which, let's be honest, is pretty mysterious.
It is, isn't it?
And then Gandalf returns, and he's not exactly his usual jovial self.
No, something's weighing on him.
He has some urgent news for Frodo, and reading this excerpt, you can practically feel the dread creeping in.
That sense of foreboding is palpable.
Right. And then the truth about the ring comes out.
And Gandalf's reaction.
It's almost like he's afraid to say it.
Well, he is wrestling with the sheer enormity of what this means.
Not just for Frodo,
No, for everyone.
for Middle-earth.
Exactly.
And then he does that test with the ring, you know.
In the fireplace.
Yes, he throws it into the fire.
What a moment.
It's like this brilliant moment of suspense.
Pure genius. In just a few lines, Tolkien confirms the ring's true nature.
Shows us the urgency to destroy it.
And even hints at the conflicts to come.
How so?
Well, he mentions Saruman, doesn't he? And you get the sense that Gandalf's trust in him is starting to waver.
Interesting. So Frodo makes the decision to leave the Shire.
The only logical choice, really.
Right. I mean, you got the most powerful evil object in existence.
Tucked away in your pocket.
And of course, he has his faithful companions, Sam, Merry, and Pippin.
Yes. The hobbits.
I love how Tolkien, even in these early excerpts, gives each of them such distinct personalities.
Yes, they're more than just sidekicks.
They're individuals who are going to play a vital role in the story.
Exactly.
And then we get that little detail about Sam overhearing that strange customer asking about Frodo. A small detail.
But it reinforces that sense of danger.
Right, like the ring's presence is already attracting unwanted attention.
Yes, the forces of darkness are at work.
Okay, and from there, things escalate pretty quickly, don't they?
They do.
The Black Riders appear.
And Frodo starts to rely on the ring more and more.
Which, as we've seen with Gollum,
Can be a very dangerous thing.
yes, and it leads to that encounter with Gildor and the elves. They offer warnings about the danger.
But there's also this sense of resignation in their words.
Like they've seen this all before.
As if they've witnessed these cycles of darkness and light play out over and over again.
And then we have that amusing encounter with Farmer Maggot,
Oh yes, Farmer Maggot.
who knew he was so perceptive.
Quite a character.
He's suspicious of folk up in Hobbiton,
Right.
and it's clear that the ring's influence is spreading.
Even if people don't fully grasp what's happening.
Right. It's like the calm before the storm.
And then at the Buckleberry Ferry,
Yes.
we see the ring's invisibility powers in full effect.
And things change dramatically.
They do, don't they? The game has changed.
Okay, so we're at a bit of a cliffhanger here. The hobbits are heading towards the prancing pony. They're about to encounter the mysterious Strider, and things are about to get a lot more complicated.
Yes, they are. Buckle up, listeners, because we'll be back with more Two Towers insights in just a moment. That's right, the prancing pony. It's one of those places, isn't it, where you can almost feel the stories swirling in the air?
Oh, absolutely. It's got that atmosphere, doesn't it? You know, travelers coming and going, secrets being shared.
But there's also this undercurrent of tension.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like something's not quite right.
Exactly. And remember, our hobbits are carrying the One Ring,
Trying to keep a low profile.
which isn't easy when you're in a place like the Prancing Pony.
And that's where Strider enters the picture.
Ah, Strider. Such a fascinating character.
I know. Tolkien really plays up the mystery, doesn't he?
He does. There's that air of danger about him.
But also a sense of competence.
Like he could handle himself in a fight.
More than handle himself, I'd say.
That's true. And of course, then the Black Riders attack.
What a scene. I mean, talk about a page-turner.
It's a brilliant set piece. We see Strider in action for the first time.
And he's not messing around.
Not at all. He's quick-thinking, resourceful,
Protecting the hobbits.
and leading them to safety.
But it really drives home the danger they're in, doesn't it?
It does. The Black Riders are relentless.
And they're closing in,
So the hobbits are forced to flee into the wilds.
with Strider as their guide.
A perilous journey.
But there's one part of this journey that's always intrigued me.
Which part is that?
Their encounter with Tom Bombadil.
Tom Bombadil. One of the most enigmatic characters in Tolkien's world.
I know. He's powerful, but he seems almost unaffected by the ring.
It's like he exists outside the rules.
Right. What do you make of him?
Well, some scholars believe he represents the power of nature itself.
Untouched by the ring's corruption.
Exactly. He's a force that even Sauron can't control.
It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What's his purpose?
It's one of those enduring mysteries.
That Tolkien leaves us to ponder.
But perhaps that's part of the point. Tom Bombadil is a reminder that there are forces at play in Middle-earth that we can't fully comprehend.
Okay, back to the hobbits and their increasingly dangerous journey. They reach Weathertop, and that's where things take a dark turn.
Yes, the attack on Weathertop. It's a brutal scene.
And Frodo is wounded, both physically and, I think, psychologically.
That wound from the Witch King's blade.
It's more than just a physical injury.
It's a connection to the dark power of the Nazgul.
It's at this point, don't you think, that the true horror of the ring starts to sink in for Frodo.
He's starting to understand the burden he's carrying
The weight of it.
and the danger it poses.
And just when all hope seems lost,
Glorfindel appears,
Glorfindel, what a hero.
a powerful elf lord,
He comes out of nowhere.
and saves the day.
It's like a beacon of light in the darkness.
And a reminder that the elves are still watching, still fighting for Middle-earth.
They haven't abandoned the fight.
No, they're just biding their time.
So finally, the hobbits reach Rivendell.
The last homely house.
You'd think they'd be safe there.
A moment of respite.
But then we have the Council of Elrond.
And suddenly, the fate of Middle-earth hangs in the balance.
It goes from a personal quest to something much bigger.
The council is where we see all the different players come together.
The elves, the dwarves,
Men,
each with their own agendas.
Their own fears and desires.
And in the midst of it all,
Is Frodo,
this seemingly ordinary hobbit.
with the fate of the world on his shoulders.
It's quite a contrast, isn't it?
It is. And then there's Boromir,
Ah, Boromir.
his fascination with the ring.
It's a warning sign, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. It shows how easily the ring can corrupt even those with good intentions.
He wants to use the ring to protect his people.
To defend Gondor.
But the ring whispers to him, promises him power.
And you can see how it starts to affect his judgment.
His sense of honor.
And then we learn about Aragorn's true lineage.
His claim to the throne of Gondor. It adds a whole new dimension to the story, doesn't it?
It does. Suddenly it's not just about destroying the ring.
It's about the fate of kingdoms.
The future of entire civilizations.
And then Gandalf reveals that he's been imprisoned by Saruman,
A shocking betrayal.
the White Wizard, a symbol of wisdom and power.
Turned to darkness.
It's a chilling realization.
It shows how even the greatest can fall.
And so, the Fellowship of the Ring is formed.
This unlikely group.
Hobbits, men, an elf, a dwarf, and a wizard.
Tasked with the impossible mission.
To destroy the One Ring.
It's a long shot.
But it's their only hope.
And as they prepare to set out,
We get these glimpses into their past.
Aragorn's long search for Gollum.
Legolas's knowledge of the ring's history.
It's like pieces of a puzzle falling into place.
And it makes you realize just how much is at stake.
The fate of Middle-earth rests on their shoulders.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
The formation of the Fellowship.
The threat of the ring.
The betrayal of Saruman.
But the journey's not over yet.
No, it's just beginning. We've got the mines of Moria, the enigmatic Lady Galadriel, and the heartbreaking fall of Boromir still to come.
It's going to be an emotional ride.
So buckle up, listeners, because we'll be back with the final part of our depth dive into the Two Towers after a short break. An emotional ride indeed. We left off with the Fellowship facing a tough choice, didn't we?
They did. The Misty Mountains, a blizzard raging, and the mines of Moria looming before them.
It's a decision that's going to have huge consequences.
And rereading this section, I was struck by how much the mines represent, beyond just being a physical challenge.
Yes, they're a symbol of the past.
The legacy of the dwarves.
And you can feel Gimli's longing to see those halls again.
But there's also this sense of dread, isn't there?
Gandalf feels it most strongly, I think.
He understands the risks.
The dangers that lurk in those forgotten depths.
And of course, his fears are justified.
The mines are no longer the grand kingdom they once were.
They've become this, well, almost like a tomb.
A testament to the destructive power of greed.
And ambition.
And Tolkien's descriptions, of their journey through the mines.
They're so vivid.
Claustrophobic, unsettling.
You really feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on them.
And then there's that encounter with the Watcher in the water.
Oh gosh, what a creature.
It's like something out of a nightmare, isn't it?
It is. I always get chills reading that part.
It's a reminder that there are things lurking in the shadows of Middle-earth that defy our understanding.
Ancient primal forces.
Exactly. And then deeper inside the mines.
They encountered the Balrog.
The Balrog.
Gandalf's confrontation with that creature.
One of the most iconic moments in the whole story.
I know. It's a battle for the ages.
Good versus evil.
And Gandalf, he sacrifices himself to save the others.
He knows he might not survive.
But he doesn't hesitate.
Fly, you fools.
I still get emotional reading that line.
It's a turning point in the story, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. The Fellowship is broken.
But it also forces the others to step up.
Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli.
They have to find their own strength.
And then, out of the darkness of the mines.
They emerge into the light of Lothlorien.
What a contrast.
It's like stepping into another world.
It is. Lothlorien represents, this kind of elven ideal.
Harmony, balance.
And Galadriel.
Lady of the Wood.
What a character. She's so powerful. But there's also this sadness about her.
A longing for a lost age.
The way she tests Frodo with the mirror.
That's a crucial moment, isn't it?
It is. We see the depths of Frodo's character.
His resilience in the face of temptation.
And Galadriel's wisdom.
She understands the true nature of power.
That it's not about domination.
But about resisting temptation.
It's choosing the right path, even when it's difficult.
And Boromir.
Oh, Boromir.
His struggle with the ring is so tragic.
You can see the good in him.
His loyalty, his desire to protect his people.
But the ring, it preys on his weaknesses.
And ultimately, it leads to his downfall.
And the breaking of the Fellowship.
It's a reminder that even the strongest bonds can be shattered.
And it sets the stage for the rest of the story.
Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli, they set out to rescue Merry and Pippin.
driven by their loyalty to their friend.
And their commitment to the quest.
And they end up in Rohan,
A kingdom in turmoil.
facing its own internal struggles.
Theoden, the king, he's been under Saruman's influence.
Weakened, manipulated.
And it's the arrival of the Fellowship that disrupts everything.
Forces them to make choices.
To take sides in this larger conflict.
And then Gandalf returns.
Not as Gandalf the Grey.
But as Gandalf the White.
More powerful than before.
Ready to rally the forces of good.
He helps Theoden break free from Saruman's control.
And leads them to the defense of Helm's Deep.
The Battle of Helm's Deep.
One of the most epic battles in all of fantasy literature.
And the Horns?
The Horns. I love that part.
Those ancient tree shepherds.
They come to the aid of the Rohirrim.
Turning the tide of the battle.
It's like the forest itself is fighting back.
And Saruman, meanwhile,
He's at Isengard,
plotting, scheming.
trying to hold on to his power.
But his plans are unraveling.
Gandalf sees through his deceptions.
And his fall from grace is a reminder that power corrupts.
Absolutely. And then there's that shocking moment when Pippin looks into the Palantir,
The Seeing Stone.
and we realize that Saruman has been in contact with Sauron all along.
It's a game changer.
It shows how deeply Sauron's influence has spread.
So we've journeyed through the mines of Moria,
Witnessed the beauty of Lothlorien,
faced the terror of the Balrog.
and seen the epic battle of Helm's Deep.
It's been quite a journey.
And we've only just scratched the surface of Tolkien's world.
There are so many layers to this story.
So many details to uncover.
So many questions to ponder.
And that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
It's a world that you can keep coming back to.
And always find something new.
So we encourage you to keep exploring.
Keep reading, keep discussing.
And keep the spirit of Middle-earth alive.
And on that note, we'll bring our deep dive into the Two Towers to a close. Thank you for joining us.
Until next time.
May your journeys be filled with wonder.
And a little bit of magic.
Farewell.